professional fighter, military instructor, and former Raven, correct?
Yeah, actually, former of all three. Actually, now all I do is I have my own academy in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and prior to that, I fought professionally for 11 years. During that 11 years, I fought in 11 different states, one other country, and fought in Bellator as well. Fought in CFFC MMA, which is a really big, promotion on the East Coast now, and a big regional, good feeder organization to the UFC. And after that, during that same time frame, I taught military combatives for the military, and I was active duty during that whole time.
So you were fighting, active duty, and teaching.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, man, it was quite a good bit on my plate, but I tend to thrive in that chaos, and a lot going on, I guess, and I had always, ever since I was, I graduated in high school, I wanted to go to college to be I wanted to be a football coach or a baseball coach or something like that, right? That was something I wanted to do. And
Wow.
when I found martial arts, because I was from such a small town, man, we didn't even have a wrestling program. We didn't have a soccer program. There was no martial arts in my town. Still to this day, there is not.
Wow.
And, it was when I found, my dad was a Golden Glove boxer. So it was something kind of, my dad was, but my dad was a wild man too, so it was some things that I grew up, always wanting to fight. And that was something that fueled me. And so at 23, even after, I went active duty Air Force at 18 or 19. And then after that, at 18 years old, sorry. And then at 23, that's when I finally found martial arts, and I finally found my pathway to everything I wanted to do. It completely changed my life. Took me from being a piece of shit, but a person that I did not want to be anything like. Looking back now that I'm 37 or going on 37 next month, man, I'm so glad I made that transition.
So you found martial arts prior to the Air Force or in the Air Force?
No, I was in the Air Force. I went in the Air Force at 18 years old, after dropping out of college, and because I was like, man, I'm broke. I need money. This isn't really. I was drinking and partying, and I was just not a good person, And so 18, I joined the military, and then at 23, I I I stumbled upon this guy that was teaching. He was teaching Judo, Jiu Jitsu, and Muay Thai kickboxing in a racquetball court in Eielson Air Force Base, Alaska. Dude, I was like, this is awesome. He had pictures of him and Chuck Liddell and stuff like that. The guy fought. He fought in Japan, and so I was like taken back. I was like, man, this is awesome. This is something I want to do. So at the time, we were just training in a racquetball court. The first day I showed up, they're sparring, and they got MMA gloves on, and they are going hard. And now that I look back on it, they were like, whoa, like they're going hard. And like heads were bouncing off of the racquetball wall, and a racquetball court really hard. And so there was just a mat they would lay out, and they would start sparring. And man, I was standing outside the racquetball court, and I was just like, oh yes, I finally found it. And there was, I remember there was a guy who's wearing like a Taekwondo gi, and he was sparring, and man, he ended up being one of my best training partners, actually. But at the time, he was getting his tail kicked. His head was bouncing because, they're used to backing up, and they run into that wall, throwing kicks, stuff like that, man. It just stuffs them, and you can come in and take them down or whatever. And so that's what I was seeing. I was like, oh, wow, this is crazy. This guy's a black belt in Taekwondo. He's getting taken down. And I was like, wow, like I want to know how to fight. I want to be the baddest dude in the room, you know, like that's ultimately what I was thinking, you know? And so that's the way it all started, man.
Was your first night MMA gloves, full contact?
No, my first time it was jiu-jitsu, and
Okay.
I remember going it was called Udansha Fighting System is the name of it. It was established by this dude named Mike Barrows. He was an old military chief, I guess. And so that's kind of where I started. So it was Japanese jiu-jitsu, judo. My instructor got his judo black belt from the Kodokan Institute in Okinawa.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So like, man, we trained judo and I hated it. Boom, boom, just thrown over and over and over.
It's not fun.
But what that
It's not fun at all.
Yeah, it gave me this grasp on fighting that was, all right, you have the stand-up, which is Muay Thai, right? You have the judo, which is the clinch and the takedowns and everything. And then you have jiu-jitsu. So you have all three forms pretty much all encompassed in one. And plus we were doing, you know, at the time we couldn't fight. You know, being in the Air Force, it wasn't allowed. I mean, this was 2006 time frame. And so this was right when Ultimate Fighter and UFC was starting to take traction, you know, and so people were fighting inside of their little dorm rooms inside on base and stuff. And like having fight clubs, right? So this is, you know, also around the time Fight Club and all that other stuff. I guess Fight Club came out earlier before that, but still people were calling it Fight Club and all this other stuff. And so the commanders shut down everybody. Was like, no, we're not having anybody, you know, fight off base. And so it took me, man, like once I started, I was like, that was my goal. I want to fight and I'm going to fight. And, you know, we had a brigadier general at the time and he wasn't allowing anybody on base to fight. And so I did tons of research. I was only at E4, which is a senior airman at the time, and I didn't have any rank at all, you know, no pull at all. And here I did all this research and compiled this stuff about how MMA is safer than even ice skating, right? And how you take less head trauma than boxing, and we have an Air Force boxing team.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so I brought that up to chain of command, man. And 2 weeks before my first fight, I got approved to fight.
You're like an after-school special.
Wait, 2 weeks before?
2 weeks before, man, I had told the guy I was going to fight and everything, and because I knew this was on the path, you know. And so 2 weeks before the fight, or you know, they were like, Brigadier General approved me. I just had to do like some off-duty, high-risk assessment stuff and different things like that. Had to have a letter from my instructor saying that we were good to go. We were able to, you know, we were upstanding. Man, I've been training 8 months, dude. Like, I mean, now that I look back at it, I'm no way, shape, or form ready to fight in a mixed martial arts fight. And however, that night, I don't know, man, it was in an old ice hockey arena. It was packed, thousands of people. And I was a co-main event, first fight ever. And, you know, I ended up getting fighter of the night, and I won. So it was like,
wow.
Intense, man. And so that set me on this path, like, oh crap, like all I gotta, and I was not good. I just didn't stop, you know. And so that I was just like, oh, if I just work hard, I can win. And I
understand that. If I just get my face punched in and don't stop, yeah, like, but I didn't have the career. So how many MMA fights have you had?
So I only have 4 amateur, man. And after amateur in Alaska, you could go amateur and pro. You could bounce around because it was unsanctioned. I mean, there was no medicals whatsoever. You had to do no blood test, nothing. So I fought 4 amateur fights, what it says on paper. And then I was like, man, I want to go fight this other promotion in Anchorage. And it was called AFC, the Alaska Fighting Championship. So little did I know, after you do that, you have a pro record. And so I fought that fight, and then they invited me right back because I won my first fight. And I fought, and so I went 1-1. Well, when I moved to South Carolina, MMA wasn't even legal in South Carolina at the time. So it was like you had to travel around, and because I already had a pro record, I had to stay pro. And so I've had 4 amateur and 24 pro.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
All
So
in the process.
So we're taking some questions on Ernie's Facebook live feed. So Paul Landreth, who is a good buddy of ours, asked, have you ever found it's been an uphill battle to convince/educate people about the dangers of MMA versus the respectable sports like boxing?
Man, that's always been the issue, right? Hasn't that always been the issue, I think, with MMA? Because it is a more barbaric sport, because you're in a cage, right? But in all aspects of it, it's a more tactical approach to things, because you got to think about the stand up, you got to think about the hands, you got to think about the knees, you got to think about the elbows, you have to think about the wrestling. Boxing, yes, it's a sweet science, because yes, you're just dealing with hands, body shots, and head shots, right, in boxing. But from a mixed martial arts standpoint, or let's just say a self-defense standpoint, it's anything goes pretty much. MMA was the closest point you could get to that as far as competing, right, while staying safe, whatnot. And so I feel that it is very hard, trying to talk to people and getting them to explain the fact that boxing, you're punching the head hundreds of times.
standing eight count.
A 45-minute fight, a 12-round match, dude, you're getting boom, bing, bing, bing. That's like a car wreck, over and over and over. And it's sad, man. It really is that people, because MMA, there's just so many different ways to win. You can win by wrist lock. You get, like, come on.
So, what was some of your toughest fights?
So I guess as far as, during my career, I went to a decision twice, I think, out of 28 fights, and none of the decisions were a tough fight, but I feel like, I fought when I realized that, there's another level as far as, like, to the UFC and whatever. My first experience with that was with Felipe Nova in Bellator, my second fight in Bellator. This is a guy, he was coming off, he was the runner-up for Ultimate Fighter Season 12. And so he had this stigmatism behind him, but I, went in there after it. We went to the second round, and, I had him in an arm bar in the first round, popped his arm a couple times. And this taught me just the most important thing about self-defense that I teach my students all the time. I had him in a joint lock, right? And it's popping, adrenaline's going. What happens? He ends up fighting out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Second round comes out. I'm pretty tired, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, I gotta get him down, or something's got to happen, right? Well, he ends up taking my back in the second round. I didn't, just like he didn't tap. However, he gets me in a rear naked choke and chokes me unconscious. So that just showed me right there. That was more of a learning experience than anything, right? Just a teaching point for my, students. That was one of my toughest fights. And then I have to say, I fought Sabah Hamasi. He was coming off with the Ultimate Fighter as well. Coconut Creek. He was an American top team guy, and I was fighting at 170 pounds, are only cutting like 8 pounds, when normally people are cutting 20.
Yeah.
And so I took this fight. This guy needed to be replaced. And so Sabah Hamasi replaced my original opponent after a week. And I had to fight him at 175. Cool. I'm down. I'm always down to fight. And so we did it. But when he showed up on fight day, man, he was a monster. I mean, he was every bit of 200 pounds, it looked like.
No.
And so I'm like, oh, shit, like I'm in there and he hits me with a jab and I'm like, oh, I felt that one. Let me go in for a single leg. Single leg worked. I always thought of single legs, are a good way to take you into a takedown because you don't use as much energy, right? For a blast double, it takes a lot of energy. You get stuffed, you're on the bottom. So I always go for single legs. And so went for a single leg, man, and it was like hitting a brick wall. And he elbowed me, split me open. I got 11 stitches. And the fight was shortly stopped right after that. And it was that helped me realize the level of the game. And there's also, a level to as far as strength and conditioning. I shouldn't have been in that 100. I shouldn't have been fighting at 175. I walk around right now at 175, 180, and most of my fights were at 170. I had a better record at 170, and but I felt like a monster at 155. I just couldn't never really get it done. Yeah.
Any advice for people wanting to go into MMA or go pro?
Just as far as from MMA standpoint, I think you should definitely, if you're wanting to do MMA, you need to focus on each particular sport, right? Or I should say martial art. So that's the way I found works best for me. Let's say if you're wanting your stand-up game to be good, Muay Thai, boxing, kickboxing, whatever, right? And then you got to have a good takedown game because guess what? If number one isn't working, your stand-up game isn't working, you got to start falling back on. So you got to have a good takedown game, right? So you got to train wrestling or judo because just jiu-jitsu is not going to get you there. It's just not, And then after that, you got to have a solid ground base. Whether that comes from wrestling or it comes from sambo, whether it comes from jiu-jitsu, whether it comes from whatever ground, catch wrestling, whatever it is, I think you got to have those three aspects in order to be a solid MMA fighter, So I think for somebody wanting to get into that, they need to focus on all three of those, just like they're focusing on the one, right? Like my focus now is, and a lot of people's focus is just one martial art, right?
Yeah.
So in MMA, your focus has to be evenly spaced on all three of those. Plus, you got to be doing strength and conditioning, because having somebody on top of you trying to punching you in the face and seeing the anger in their face, that's a whole nother aspect of training for. Being like, I want to kill you,
Like what you said, equal. It's hard transitions. Like I used to kickbox, and then I was doing judo. I remember once I tried to, like, instead of wrapping up, I threw a kick. And I'm like, I didn't mean that. What am I doing? And he's like, oh, wait, we do kicks in judo too. He's like, bam me into the mat over and over. And I'm like, I didn't mean it. And he's like it was a habit.
Absolutely, man.
It's very difficult to go from one to another at the beginning until you start internalizing, I guess.
Absolutely. And even now, man, like now that I have a very high level black belt that I train with. His name is Rehan Mutalib, and he's IBJJF competition, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, Cabrinha black belt under. So he's under Cabrinha, really good multiple time world champion black belt, but it's all competition based Jiu Jitsu, right? And he does phenomenal against me. And we had a conversation today about it. It was like, I want to go forward because that's my mentality from MMA, right? Is just, I want to go forward. Let's see who quits first, right? And in jiu-jitsu, you just can't do that, And so, like, I go forward. My pressure is away from my hips. He comes underneath, and now he's able. Next thing you know, he's on my back, right? And it's a patient game, but with MMA, if you're patient, you're not winning almost. It's like if I'm patient on top, I'm not throwing punches. And so it's like, it's crazy now that, I'm taking a step back from MMA, and now I'm focusing more on the competition level side of jiu-jitsu. And it's given me a different view from everywhere, which ways, man. It's making me respect everything so much more too.
I get my ass kicked in jiu-jitsu at my own school. How'd you meet Kurt Pellegrino?
Man, crazy story. And so I was stationed in Alabama, and so I was stationed in Sumter before that. So Kurt was somebody I used to look up to, like I'm still do. Kurt was like, I would watch him in the UFC. I remember seeing his first UFC fight, and I was like, man, this guy is a wild man. And then next thing you know, I saw him working his way up the ranks, like next thing you know, he's like top 10 in the world.
Yeah.
And just the way he would take people down, and he just ground and pound. He just didn't look like he got tired.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that is amazing. So I was stationed in South Carolina at the time, ended up getting stationed in Alabama, teaching some new, I taught combatives to brand new officers that came in the military. And then I also taught base defense, land navigation, search and seizure, different things like that for FTX style they had at the end. That closed down, man, in 6 months. So they were like, hey, pick your choices of what bases you want to go. I was like, dream come true, because I was in Montgomery, Alabama, and there was nobody really, as far as from a mixed martial artist standpoint,
Okay, because usually the dream state would not be New Jersey.
Right. It was like, I wanted to be in Vegas was my number one spot. Number two spot was actually Phoenix, Arizona. So because at the time, Ben Henderson was the man.
Yeah.
And I think Jeff Gimo was working with some guys down there at the lab too at the time.
Yeah.
I think still does possibly. And then I also Uriah Faber's gym up in Sacramento. So I had pieced all my bases around good gyms, like high level gyms. And so I picked Jersey was number 4, man, because Ricardo Almeida's gym was only 20 minutes away. And so Frankie Edgar was training there at the time. And so, but Kurt's was like 45 minutes away. I messaged Kurt on Twitter, got to talking to him. He invited me to come into his gym. The first day I showed up there, man, that was it. I never even went to Ricardo Almeida's. Never went and visited another gym once I got there, because he sat me down in his office, was like, here's my personal cell phone number, wrote it on his card, gave it to me. He's like, yeah, man. He's like, just hit me up. This is after we got done training. And like, he tried to toss some tough dudes at me too, and I felt I did pretty well, and so afterwards he was like, here's this, here's my number, hit me up. Then a couple days passed by. He's like, hey, I'm going to work out with my boxing coach. He was like, want to tag along? I was like, dude, I had never been around anybody like Kurt. You know what I'm saying? As far as from that level.
And he's I talked with him a couple times. Super humble, nice.
Yes.
Funny. God.
He's a character for sure. He's hilarious. Now, will everybody say what me and you were saying about Kurt? Absolutely not. He has had his run-ins, and like as do everybody in the martial arts scene, But at that point in time in my life, I'd never had that before. I'd never had somebody that was a UFC star, literally a UFC star, talk to me and want me to be part of their team and be, and invite me and want to train with me and stuff. And I was like taken back, and I was like, man, I'm in for the long haul. And so, we stayed around, with Kurt. I trained there. I had a couple Bellator fights with Kurt. and then CFFC, and learned how to wrestle up there in Jersey. Like, that was the best training for wrestling I could possibly get, man, is in there in Jersey. That's where I learned how to wrestle.
I remember watching him and Jeff Jimmo play around.
Yeah.
Ring. And it was like, shit. It was amazing. Because Jimmo, whenever he touches you lose time.
Yeah, dude. And Kurt tells me, he's like, yeah, Jimmo's like, he's just the man, And I actually texted him the other day, speaking of Jeff, and he's just talk about an amazing human being.
Yeah.
That's one man that I strive my best to be a coach like that, man.
Is that how you met Jeff, though, through Kurt?
Oh, no. No. And Jeff, I met Jeff, it was even a crazier story. I thought I was the next best thing since sliced bread, man. So I was 1-1 as a pro, when I moved to South Carolina. And Jeff was putting, on the forum, MMA forums were like the stuff back in 06, 07, And so Jeff was putting out this fight team, right? You'd travel around and fight these different teams. It's called Bone Crunch Fight League. And Jeff was going to be an instructor, being one of the coaches, and he was at Gastonia at the time.
Yeah.
At Ryan Hoover's.
Yeah, Ryan Hoover's.
And I was like, man, I need to go up there. So I was stationed in Sumter, South Carolina. So I ended up driving all the way up there and to try out on a Saturday. And I get there, and that was the first time I ever been in a big gym too. Like, I mean, it was an old skating rink, And I was like, what in the world? This is like crazy. There's a boxing ring there. There's like this big mat space. I'm like, oh, this is what gyms are supposed to look like. I was like, oh, this is nice. Okay. And then, we tried out and everything. And then Jeff had, he had this guy, a kickboxer from Chicago. I don't remember the guy's name. But
little guy?
Huh?
A little guy?
Skinny.
Jim?
I don't remember. I mean, this was 07, so yeah, I really don't remember. But he was a kickboxer from Chicago. I think he was bald.
Was he a cop?
I don't remember that either. But he was teaching like a spinning back fist. Well, or like Jeff was like, "Hey guys, we got this kickboxer in from Chicago. If anybody wants to hang around," I was like, "Jeff, man, I was like, is it cool if I hang around, Because I drove a long time to just train, And Jeff was so cool. And then after that, man, Jeff never forgot me. He never forgot who I was. I saw Jeff 2 years later at an MMA fight. I was like, he had long hair then. That's when he grew his hair out. And I was like, dude, I don't know if you remember me or not. He was like, but I tried out for you. And he was like, it was like, boom, instant. He remembered me. We sparked up. I had multiple wins since then, and I started slowly meshing back in with Jeff, and I'd go and travel sometimes. I'd do some training camps up there, and man, Jeff has just always been that. I went to Italy with Jeff. I went and fought in Italy, and Jeff, is the one that got me that. But it's been that was 2007 when I first met Jeff. Yeah.
He's a freak of nature.
Yeah, he is. And his mentality behind it all is very, very good as well.
So he's very intellectual. That's
a very good word for it. Man, he'll drop in big words and you'll be like,
yeah. He'd say stuff. Yeah. Like 70% of these people just didn't understand what you just said.
Yeah, and he'll play it off all nonchalantly, but you guys know that, But
yeah, it's actually I just talked to his wife, Steph, Dirty Bird.
Yeah, I went with her. She went with us also to Italy. She's a mess.
She is awesome.
Yeah,
that's great. How about your military training? How about teaching? Let's talk teaching for the military.
Cool.
Because it's a lot different than teaching to civilian groups.
It's extremely different, man. When I was in the schoolhouse, so I was up at 421. You went through one of my classes.
Yeah. That's how we met. They put me through a instructor's combatives course for the Air Force.
I had no clue who you guys were. And
Adam and I, the only non-military. And I was like, everyone else is like 20s, early 30s. I must have been late 40s at the time, too.
Yeah, I think you were the oldest dude in there, right?
Yeah. I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
I had so much fun, though. Like, I was like, wait, you're going to pay me to go through this course
and get certified. I'm like, yeah.
Okay.
I get to train for 8 hours a day.
It was awesome.
Yeah. It's also, but those times are, normally we don't have guys like you or Adam, right? So like teaching to the basic level, it's hard sometimes, and sometimes you get frustrated, especially, guys don't know how to use their right hand. You tell them to make a full hand grip and they're like, what? And yeah.
I have a question. I don't mean to derail you.
Okay.
But you were at Shaw Air Force Base in Sumter in 2006?
Yeah.
So speaking of Air Force people who don't know how to use their right hand, my brother was stationed there. I'm just wondering if maybe you crossed paths with him. He was EOD. His last name was LaGrady.
LaGrady.
Joe LaGrady.
What was his name?
Joe LaGrady.
I may have because we were in the same squadron. So EOD and I was civil engineer, which EOD is in the same civil engineering squadron as that. So there's a good possibility that I did cross paths with him.
He would have been someone to make your head hurt. I love my brother dearly. I do. I'll just send you a video of me beating him up.
Okay, please.
No offense to anyone, but when I first started teaching for Dick's, I remember because I was doing the Air Advisor Academy, like pre-deployment. I was like, "Is this real military? Is it?" And like, there were a bunch of Marines, and they were like, "No, it's the Air Force." But like, you're right, because people usually come to train who've watched it or seen it, who really want to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And what people that are told, you got to go do this.
Yeah.
And it's an interesting, it changes the whole way you teach.
Everything, I remember the first, and that's one thing Dave Durnell from the Air Force Academy, that's one thing he taught me. He was like, if people don't want to be here, he was like, tell them to leave. He was like, they don't have to be here. We'll just send it up their chain of command, tell them that they didn't want to be here. But you still have those people that don't want to be there that have to be there, So then they're going to play the, I call it stump the chump, right? So they're going to give you a lot of what if questions. And so when I was in Montgomery, it's called the Air and Space Basic Course, right? For new lieutenants. And so you got me, I'm a staff sergeant at the time, enlisted guy, and I'm nothing but officers as I'm teaching. Nothing but officers. And they think they know everything, but they don't know hardly anything, right? And so you get to it, and you're trying to teach them ground stuff, and you get like, I'm teaching them, I think it was a paper cutter choke with the gi or with the collar, And so I'm teaching the paper, and they're like, well, what if they don't have a shirt? And I'm like, come on, man. Like, if they don't have a shirt, you just do something else, right? You adapt and you overcome. Obviously, you're not going to do that choke if they don't have clothes on. I was like, and also, you got bigger fish to fry, man. If they ain't got clothes on, man, probably on PCP.
Yeah, the one thing that Jimmo always said was, I'm going to make that guy, like, he'd have people, and I always liked that, like, I'm not going to push him away, shut him off, hurt him. I want that guy walking beside me. What can I do to help change their mind. But you're right, Matt. I used to get questions, and the things I was allowed to do with the military that I wasn't allowed to do with the military that I could do with civilians.
Yeah.
Like one of my first teaching gun defenses, I was a school teacher. I went around, I talked to people before, a woman who was a colonel, she trained with a guy who I trained, and he was a stand-up dude, and she was like a certain belt. So I was doing the demo. I pulled her out. I slapped her and hit her and had her do it. She punched me. And like all the cadre came up. They're like, you're not allowed to hit a colonel. You're not. I'm like, oh, she loved it. Look, she was cool. and I get called into the office the next day. And I was like, oh, was it a female colonel? No. She gave me the best scores you could get. It was another colonel who an instructor yelled at him for not.
Yeah. It's very PC.
And it really blew my mind because when they were asking me, I'm like, no one. I'm thinking somebody hit somebody.
Right.
And he's like, no. I saw an instructor yell at somebody, but they weren't following directions over and over and over. And they're like, yeah. I was like, I just slapped this woman. Like, and she loved it. Like, because it was a stress drill. It was a stress drill that I knew her instructor did.
Yes.
And it was like, it was a new experience for me, man. That was interesting.
It's you got a fine line you gotta abide by, man, as far as like in the military, if you can stray off some, and and that's what I do now when I go to the I went to Charleston Air Force Base and I taught some Phoenix Ravens down there, and like a couple months ago, man, and I was like, listen, I'm going to tell you a lot of cool stuff, but then I'm going to tell you a lot of stuff that's far over here too,
Yeah.
So know your boundaries as far as the military is concerned.
And your audience, yeah. Speaking of military, Jake, I didn't know you knew Jake Edwards until just recently.
Yeah,
Jake's a good man.
He's a very, very cool dude, man. He texts me every now and again. And it's like not even anything. It's just like, hey, man, hope all is well. Just checking in on you. And I'm like, when I first got to Fort Dix, man, me being Air Force too, and then I got shoved in right into the urban ops team. It's just all Marines that have some high level experience. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's say Jake, he was in the Battle of Fallujah, and he would tell me stories about him, demo and stuff and everything like that, man. And I took everything those dudes said, and I was just a sponge. And so now, it's like I tell guys, people are like, "Oh, you were in the Air Force." I'm like, "Yeah." I said, "Man," but I said I hung around some cool dudes. I hung around some cool cats, man. That a lot of knowledge.
Same thing. I had an opportunity. I'm not even military. I was a school teacher. And people were like, "So what were you?" I'm like, "School teacher." I'm like, I was a school teacher. And Jake would laugh or something. I met some incredible people and some, kick-ass individuals.
Sure.
Jake, you gotta ask Jake about being a English rodeo clown. Next time we talk about it.
I will.
It's a fun story. But Jake is going to be teaching at Croft Camp.
That's awesome, man. It's going to be really cool to see him again, because I used to follow right alongside Jake. We'd be going, and he'd teach when I was in my training and trying to learn the ropes and everything. I would be in his group. He would be running, drills through these guys and teaching them and everything. And I'd be right alongside him, kind of assisting and everything. And it taught me a lot, man. It really did.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah.
Wait, so you're going to be Derrick's a guest instructor at Croft Camp in August. Talk to me about your what you were going to teach.
Yeah, man. So I have so coming from with my mixed martial arts background, one of our things we you know I've trained, I guess, rigorously on is getting up from the bottom position, right? So I'm going to teach numerous different, while also having an awareness of your weapon systems, right? So also always having a weapon side, whichever side you're going on. So that will be the focus, right? But also the focus is going to be, get weapons retention will be the focus, but the other focus is going to be getting to our feet, right? So we can fight, because fighting on bottom, even though from a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu standpoint is awesome, right? We have numerous different things. The practicality of it is not like if you got somebody on top that's easily accessible to their weapon system, they're going to win that fight.
Yeah.
And they're going to win it way before you are. And then they're going to continue to do whatever they want to do all the way around, And so what I want to do is, or what my plan is we're going to do numerous different things of getting up, whether it's on the bottom in an open area, or we're on the bottom and we're up against a wall, right? So we can use different techniques to get up off the wall. And now how do we change our position off of that wall?
Yeah.
Are we going to utilize underhooks? Are we going to utilize the tie clinch? Are we going to utilize frames? Right? While also having an awareness of our weapon system. So these are also all different things that we're going to take into play, man. And we're going to do Muay Thai in the clinch while also being aware of our weapon systems. We're going to wrestle. We're going to do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu while also being aware of everything, all of our weapon systems. So it's a fun little thing I've been working on for a couple years now. So when I roll, I don't just roll for fun. I do for fun sometimes, right? And then some days it's only on this system that I'm kind of creating, I guess, if you will. Not creating, because it's already there. It's already been created. It's just being able to flow patterns together to where they mesh well, and they're a little bit seamless, if you will, right? And so that's kind of where I'm at. And it's more of using Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, MMA to get positions and subdue people so they can't utilize their arms, right? Because their arms and the hands, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a huge component, especially people who don't experience like rolling with a weapon or rolling with a holster.
Or their vest on.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
all I can think about is Adam grabbing me and shaking me. I'm like, why? Why do I have Adam? Like, this sucks. Yeah. But it does change a lot of how people move.
Yeah, for sure it does, man. And your awareness too, because a lot of people, when we used to do a drill in combatives, we throw out the shock knife, right? You throw out the shock knife. Everybody goes crazy going for the shock knife, right? And so we want to learn how to control that, especially if you have some person that's their main focus is to kill you. You got to learn how to control that.
Yeah. Yeah. Shock knife tends to change things a lot.
Yeah.
A whole lot. I'm getting a lot of people excited. Kurt Norsini, Glenn Silverstein. Oh, I have another guy. He's a law enforcement officer at Westchester. Jason used to teach at the Air Advisor Academy. What's up, Jason? Glenn, Blaze, Todd Peters, Robin. A lot of people come to camp. They're interested in what you're putting out.
Yeah, man.
That's what I like about you and the people that come to camp. No, it's like we have like some top level instructors and everyone's cool. Yeah. No one is like, I'm the best. Everyone else sucks. It's people that want to go and have fun and learn and share. It's not who's the toughest, who's the best shot, who's this.
Well, I think that's what a true martial artist is, right? A true martial artist wants a little bit of everything, right? Yeah. They want to be able to. It's a give and take relationship, I think, with martial artists. You're going to get those guys that are going to be like, I got more credentials, I got more certifications, and blah blah blah. But I think, man, it comes down to experience, right?
Yes.
Teaching experience and also real life experience. But I think as long as everybody's cool, man, you just you take what you need from other people,
Yeah.
and it helps you to be the complete person that you want to be as a martial.
I'm a little nervous because I didn't think so many people would want to do it. We have like 20 different guest instructors. Jiu
That's
Jitsu,
awesome.
Krav, combatives, like military guys.
Lost you.
Oh, don't worry about it. Technical difficulties should be the name of this program. Trust me.
Freaking knocked my phone out of the way.
But like you were like, oh man, wait, I get the like grapple and shoot. You're like, yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
And
another reason, man, I want to come down there so I can train with all these other people, man, and other people, people I've never trained before. If I take away one thing, right, it's going to be worth it, right? Just one thing. And I learned that very early on when I was like buying like instructional books and stuff like that, and before the DVDs and stuff, I'd be well, not before the DVDs, but I'd buy instructional books and I'd be like, oh man. And my instructor, he says, man, if you take one move out of that book, one move, and it works for you, it was worth it. That was worth it. And so I've always kind of lived my whole entire time during that, like that,
It's that mentality that we're trying to bring together. Now, I don't care what organization, I don't care what style, I don't care what gun you shoot. Let's come together as be nice to other people.
Yeah.
And share. That's it.
Yeah, I tell everybody, I'm like, hey man, I invite people to my gym. Here's what I say. Hey, we have open mat every Friday night. As long as you're cool, you can come. If you have an ego, don't even bother coming.
Yeah. And that's what I like about you.
Yeah.
And you know what? I was waiting for this when my wife gets back. Because, she doesn't know you. She hadn't met you.
Yeah.
But she loves your online classes and your training.
Thank
Hey,
you.
everyone during this time, if you haven't checked him out or the Next Element Academy, look at his online training. He does some really cool, everyday items and how to train and how to use them. But
I think you were the first one to make a grappling dummy that I saw. We've had water bottles and plastic cups hanging from almost every entryway in our house. Now there's one permanently hanging from our ceiling fan. And then the last Muay Thai combination I saw you do with the switch knee.
Yes.
I taught the kids right away. Because I'm like, come on, guys, this is a really fun Muay Thai combination. We get to do a switch knee. So I appreciate it. Thank you for putting that stuff out there.
You're absolutely welcome. Thank you so much for complimenting me as well. But it's those little, like that water bottle, that I had hanging from when I was stationed in Alaska, they would send me out on a Black Hawk helicopter. And I'd fly out to his bombing range and I'd have to stay there for a week, man. And there was talking to there was no roads there, and we had to stay there and I had to man the power plant while I was there. Well, while I was there, I had to figure out how to train by myself. Mm-hmm. And so what I did was, man, I taught myself some awesome jumping rope combinations and everything else. I flew a heavy bag out there one time to hang off the basketball goal. But, it's all about those times when you become creative with your training. I think a lot of times you grow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think I grew a lot, even though I was very amateur during early times. I think I grew a lot just because I had to be so creative because,
Yeah, it's like we talk a lot because, like I said, our school right now is our living room. And, I was like, I've taught in countries where people don't have equipment, in Poland and Colombia. And we're like, grab some towels, put them in the backpack. Okay, they're going to be your pads. Do this. And she's like, oh, so we've been using some of that. But you're right. It's that putting yourself in an uncomfortable position or place, and you have to grow.
Yep. It's adapt and overcome.
Yeah.
It literally is. And I think that, and as far as learning striking techniques, man, you don't need a whole lot of anything, man. That's why, boxing is a poor sport. If you really think about it, you don't really need a whole lot. Basketball is as well. You don't need a whole lot of items in order to do the sport, right? You can practice shadow boxing all day long of a mirror and perfect technique. You can get a water bottle while and get it swinging back and forth to you. So you mimic the head movement, the punching's coming at you while you're shadow boxing, So there's ways you can do it, It's just, I think everybody, nowadays anyways, people get spoiled, They get spoiled, man. I mean, I used to love being in Afghanistan and Iraq and not having anything except for just dirty weights laying around, and you have to figure it out.
Yeah.
You have to make stuff happen. You find when I would go to Iraq, I remember the first time I went to Afghanistan, it was 2008, and we had no clue there was any jiu-jitsu on base. I just saw a picture of a magazine, and I saw they had a boxing ring somewhere on base, and it was like an MMA magazine. So I walked all over Bagram Airfield and ended up finding out where the freaking boxing ring was and everything, but it was on the special ops base. So I couldn't get on. But right across the way, they were teaching jiu-jitsu in this little place, and they would get their mats out and everything. Well, I ended up befriending a guy that was a Green Beret, and he liked jiu-jitsu, and his best friend was Tim Kennedy. And so, crazy story, Tim Kennedy actually come over there to teach us at this jiu-jitsu gym, and then afterwards, because I befriended this Green Beret, he brought me onto the special ops base, and I ended up teaching jiu-jitsu on the special ops base, and I got to spar and everything in the boxing ring. They had these set up. They had a speed bag. They had everything, man, and a boxing ring of all places in Afghanistan. Crazy.
Do you want to say hi to some people?
Have you said hi to anybody?
No. I was too engrossed in talking to.
No, I was listening. I've been cooking today, so the ham had to come in and the bread had to come out and all that.
Yeah.
So we have a wide gambit of people.
Yeah.
We have lots of people that are interested in saying hello. So we have Ted Cam, Ken Malt, Daniel Frisco, Joelle Dillard. Oh, did I say that right? Jack O'Connor, Stara, Rick Goforth, Scott Burbage, Gil Drucker, Butch Bradley. Happy Easter to you, sir. Jeff, Michael, Ava.
Ava's a fighter.
Another Jason, Paul Andrew Smith, Jeff, Wayne, Brian Myers, Lindy, Eddie Diaz, Michael, Christian, Tim Rook, Ian Lawrence. Hope you're safe out there, Ian. Ian was deployed recently.
Congratulations on the baby, Tim.
Jose, Denny James, Todd Peters, Yilin, Jason Malicki, Akeem, Nathalie, David, Kurt, Marco, Charles, Gabby, Eric, Penkesh, Miles Baker, good to see you, man. Jeffrey, Tim Hubbard, Tiffany, Paul McCoy, Christina, Frank, Garrick, John, Glenn, Blaze, another instructor for Krav Camp, Blaze, Robin Kennedy, Gabriel Ray Stoltz, how you doing? Phil Jones, Stan Olson, nice, Ed Eggers. So thank you all for watching and tuning in. I know I speak for a whole, so I get to do all the social media content for Krav Camp, and I was just being able to follow you and then post about you, and then I posted about Jake and put your picture on. I'm like, wait a second, that's not Jake, that's Derrick, isn't it? And Ernie's like, yeah, that's Derrick. So you have a big fan base. Looking forward to learning from you in August. So thank you again for coming up and hanging out with us. We appreciate it.
Dude, I'm beyond humbled to be invited with the spectacular group of men and women that are going to be involved in this thing. You know, it's the further I get along in my career, you know, sometimes you think, you're like, man, am I still relevant? You know, sometimes. You know?
Yeah.
Especially coming from a competitive atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? Like, am I still who I think I was? You know what I'm saying? But I think that now it's just you take those experiences from that atmosphere that you were in, and now you're able to give it back.
Yeah.
And so that's the cool part about it all. And I think this is going to be an amazing trip. I think it's going to be an amazing time for everyone to grow combatively and together, and all as a single unit as well.
Yeah.
So I think this is something awesome. Something I've been wanting to do for a while too. So it's pretty cool.
And the cool thing is, it's like this is our hope. This is what we're looking forward to.
For sure.
Stuck in a house for so long, and we have people like Century Martial Arts behind it, and some other companies that are helping sponsor. So we'll be able to have some cool training, some cool people, and the land up there is amazing, dude. It's like multiple shooting ranges. We're going to have mats under tents for people to train, and it's going to be a good time, a really good time. It's instructors such as yourself, man, and Jake, and another Air Force Army guy, Jerry Smith, is teaching. Jerry's a Judo and Jiu Jitsu guy. He was Army and then Air Force, and I met him teaching at Fort Dix. And it's like, he teaches jiu-jitsu now at my school too. Super great guy.
Very good.
Anything else that you want to add or say?
No, man. I'm really excited to be a part of this. I'm really excited to come out there and show some stuff that I've learned, and then also I'm excited to learn too more than anything. I think it's going to be freaking awesome.
How about telling everyone your Instagram?
You can follow me on Instagram at Derrick, aka DK, at Instagram. So that means Derrick, also known as DK. But yeah, that's my Instagram. But I also have a Facebook fan page as well. I used to be on it as a little bit more, and I need to be putting information out there as far as techniques and stuff. Yeah, and but I have it's Derrick DK Kennington on Facebook, or you can just follow my regular Facebook is Derrick Kennington. My Instagram for my academy, it's The Next Element Academy, and then also on Facebook it's The Next Element Academy as well. And it's something that's a whole different story.
Well, another thing that we were talking about, because I saw you post it. You're going to be doing stuff for your students, some seminars, some events.
Yes, sir. We
are
are
school owners.
Yeah. So our members, the ones that decide to stick it out through this whole shenanigans is what I like to call it, because there's no other better word, I don't think. But they stick it out with us, man, we're going to give them 4 free seminars. So we're giving them 2 striking and 2 jiu-jitsu based seminars. So I have one of my really good friends. He taught at Syndicate MMA in Las Vegas. He's also lived in Thailand for a year. He's an excellent Muay Thai instructor. His name is Walker Vivian. And he's actually trains out in Florence, South Carolina. So it's only like an hour and a half away. And so he owns a Carolina Kickboxing Academy in South Carolina, in Florence now. And so I'm going to do a seminar for them. He's going to do one for me. And then I also have some Brazilian Jiu Jitsu guys. I have my friend Cabrinha Black Belt. He's going to be doing a seminar in my academy as well. So yeah, man, we have a lot of stuff. We're also doing the Zoom classes as are you, and the live class, which, and that's a whole new, gambit to deal with, man. It's very tough to try to do something, because as me and you already talked about, we thrive in that classroom atmosphere, that person to person contact.
Yes.
And that, you being able to feel somebody's energy and talk to them, and explain stuff in detail. And it's really hard to do that,
Yeah. So I've been doing guest instructor stuff for friends.
Oh, nice.
And like I had a lesson planned for one, and he just wanted to talk. And I was like, oh, let me get rid of this then. Like I was like, huh? But like what you're doing, this is a time where it's not like competitors. It's not like the martial arts animosity. It's time for people to sort of come together, help each other out. Because you know what? We're all small business owners.
For sure. It's an industry, right?
Yeah,
So we
yes.
our industry up and thriving and keeping it alive, there's when I opened this academy, I was like, everybody's like, recession's coming, and I'm like, man, the market's booming right now. It's like that time to get in business, And but luckily, man, we have a really good group of people, man. I've always, and as long as you're cool, man, you'll last in our academy. If you're a cool dude and you're chill and you don't have ego. Now, don't get me wrong. When you're an MMA fighter and you're fighting competitively, you have to have some type of ego, right? But you got to learn how to when to turn that on and off, right?
Yeah.
If it's time to let's get after it and let's see, who's gonna quit first, then let's let the ego get a little bit here. But never when it comes between let's say me and you, I don't want ever to be any issues. We need to always be cool with each other because that's how we're going to make each other better.
And and not only that, you're giving back to your students.
For sure.
It's not about this is how I'm going to make money. No, it's thank you. Hey, we're all in a tough time. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. We've paused everybody's membership and we've asked people, we said, hey, if you guys want to continue paying, awesome. If you don't want to pay your full amount for membership, here's these other little things you can do, little tiers, if you will. If you can't pay anything, we're perfectly cool with that too. We understand these time frames going on, but just know that if you continue to hold it out and stick it out with us, we're going to give it right back to you tenfold.
Yes.
And
it's like we constantly try and think of what else can we give to our students.
For sure.
What else? Especially now. Like on Fridays, I do arts and crafts and projects with the kids. They tune in and we do like a mat chat. But it's stuff I did as a school teacher, whether it's science experiments or making a mat, but just fun stuff to let them occupy their time, keep busy, have fun.
And also it lets them know that you're still to them.
Yeah.
That's another key aspect that I found in martial arts, as being a business owner and a martial arts business owner, if you will, that you got to keep track of your students, man. You got to let them know that you care about them.
Yeah.
Yes. because they are your livelihood. And plus, man, they're a direct descendant pretty much of you, right?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
as far as like the martial arts are concerned. So whatever that they learn, it's coming from the horse's mouth, and you need to make sure everything that comes out of there is cool, you know, and good standing.
So I just really, I mean, you were on that immediately, like the first week, about giving back. And I was like, man, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I applaud you for it. Seriously. Do you have anything else you'd like to share?
No, man. Just God bless each and every one of you guys, and man, thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this, dude. I'm humbled.
I'm humbled. Thank you. I'm honored. No, seriously. You know, you're a Bellator fighter, combat veteran. You know, like you're a world-class fighter and instructor. Thank you.
Yeah,
No.
it's my pleasure, man. And you know, and that's the way it should be. You know, it's my pleasure for sure.
Thank you. My wife says thank you also.
Tell her I appreciate her. I'll be putting out some more videos too. I got some cool front choke stuff that can go into an arm bar, right? You know, with somebody's on the couch. I need to post that one. I've been meaning to. So,
guys, check out the Next Element Academy on Facebook.
Yeah, man.
He has some really cool videos. Thank you again, Derrick.
Thank
you
you
guys for watching. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good night, man.
You too,
Happy
bro.
holidays.
Happy holidays. Happy Easter.